Welcome, everyone, to Defending Our Children. Today, we have for you a film producer. His name is Ben Pauling, and today we're going to talk mainly about an upcoming film called Dream that he is creating. I watched the trailer of it. It is powerful. It's beautiful. It's exactly the kind of messaging I believe the American populace needs. So let's welcome Ben onto the show. So Ben, thank you for your efforts out there, and thank you for spending your time on the show with us today. So welcome to Defending Our Children.
Thank you so much, Craig. It's a pleasure to be on here. Pleasure to meet you guys. And I just honor, I respect, I love what you guys are doing and using your voices in this way, because I know it's not the only way you could be using it.
Yeah, man. Well, we're
Yeah.
compelled to speak truth. And, I see that there's so much deceit and
Yeah.
there's so much lack of information people don't know. And it's sad to say that a lot of people don't want to know. And there's
Right.
great harm happening, but that's great opportunity for those who care enough to do good. And you're one that cares enough to step up and create an informational film to cause people to understand what's happening, and so we can safeguard the little ones. And it's beautiful. So what got you into this mindset and effort, Ben? Tell us a little bit of the backstory.
Yeah. So when it came to this story was actually birthed out of a dream that I had in 2020. Prior to this just dream, I'd heard about child trafficking. I'd heard about, rescue operations where they're finding kids in trailers and, in houses, just crazy things that became kind of just blimps on news reels. And I thought, man, that's terrible, but never really was, fathoming it or, really understanding the velocity of what that meant and how devastating that actually is. But when I had this dream, one night in August of 2020, I woke up and it was just one of those encounters where you just know it's more than just a dream. And I really woke up and I felt the fear. I felt the abandonment, the just total horror of what it must be like to be one of these children. I immediately started thinking what it must be like at night, especially for a child who's been taken from their home, who's been, God knows what's happened to them, and they're literally, we think we've had a bad night of sleep. We had a couple bad nights of sleep, and there's just no such thing as a good night's sleep ever in that circumstance for them. And we all know how important it is to have a good night's rest, and just to think, not only are you taken from those that love you, your entire world, every single living moment of your existence is a nightmare at that point. And it doesn't end, and it really is hell. And I just really felt God's heart for these kids. And the dream consisted of me. I was standing at the gate of this industrial warehouse in this kind of deserted road, kind of industrial area, train tracks to the right of me. And I'm at the security gate of this warehouse, and I just am drawn to the windows of this industrial building. And something within me just knew that there was something nefarious going on in there, just something that was more than meets the eye. It wasn't just a place of business. It was something evil going on. Immediately, this man pulls up. He's questioning me, asking what I'm doing there, tells me they shut the place down, send everybody home. It's appointment only kind of thing. And I just knew that he was lying to me. I could tell in this dream that this was, an operation of trafficking. In the dream that I had, he immediately started coming towards me to kill me, and I immediately woke up. But when I woke, I really felt, man, this was so specific, the location, the visual of it. It was such a vivid, real dream to me. When I woke up, I was like, man, this must be a real place. And so I hopped in my car and I started searching for maybe this place is somewhere near around where I live. And, I ended up searching for hours in the outskirts of my town and nearby towns. And I never really found the exact place, but it was while I was driving, I was thinking, man, how amazing would that be if I did find this place, and there was a rescue and I gave a tip or something like that. And it just unnetted this whole kind of, horror. And
Oh,
I was thinking, man, that would be a powerful story if something like that happened. And so as I was driving and I was listening to some movie soundtracks, the story just kind of came to me. It started as a short film, actually, and it was kind of supposed to be just this smaller short film that we were going to do in the interim during COVID. and we wrote the short film, and we sent it to some of our producer friends that work on a lot of bigger projects. And almost everyone that we presented it to said, man, this concept here, this idea, this needs to be told. This needs to be more than just a short film. So we set out, and I just kind of it kind of just wrote it. It was a screenplay that wrote itself, really. It was not at all difficult. It was not at all hard to come up with a creative. It kind of just all flowed together. Before I knew it, we had it in the hands of an Academy Award winning actor that wanted to participate in it. And so we were in talks with the person I'll leave unsaid, recent Academy Award, somehow made it to him by miracle. I'm not even sure exactly how that took place. And many people told us since then, like, wow, like, that's pretty crazy. That doesn't usually take place, especially with a younger filmmaker. And so we were on track to be making this film with said actor, rallying financing around the project. We had all of the, items in order, and I was searching for locations. And it was actually during the process of me finding what we would use as this warehouse, I ended up finding it about 40 miles away from where the story's set, which is in my hometown. It's set right where I live in my hometown. I pull up and I get a hold of this lumberyard warehouse owner, and he immediately was stunned that we had got a hold of him, because his wife had been posting stuff about child trafficking just a couple days earlier, and she was actually banned off Facebook for it
Oh,
at the
wow.
time. So she was very like, whoa, is this some sort of ploy to try to undercover ploy to get us to say something, or to kind of, she was very like, this is weird. But they ended up fully supporting us, and many of the community just rallied around us making this picture. I mean, the fire department, helicopter owners, the police department, everyone on board to come tell this story about this really, really important topic, which I happen to be from the Sacramento area.
Okay.
And so, as you know, it's been, known for being one of the top hotspots for trafficking, and it's still, on the list, and deeply affected area with trafficking. And so, yeah, from there, had some bumps in the road. It was pretty much put to a halt after everything was going forward in about right around mid 2022.
Okay.
And things kind of shifted, and the person that was, this big actor that was wanting to be a part of it, it ended up just not working out with that person for, reasons that we're probably not at liberty to say involving them. Yeah, so pretty much it started in that way, and it kind of started very organically and kind of just built a life of its own. And yeah, and so from where that took place to where we're at right now, we've had many people within the industry that just did not want to, that although they cared about this subject matter, they did not want to have their name on it.
Yeah, I understand. I ran into that.
Yeah,
We can talk about more of that. Folks, stay tuned. We're going to be right back with more on
yeah,
this. Welcome back to Defending Our Children. We are on with Ben Pauling, filmmaker, and we're talking about his upcoming film, Dream. He's unpacking how this all came together. And Ben, just before the break, you were talking about some challenges and bringing this together. And man, I can tell you from experience, whenever you are boldly doing kingdom work, and by kingdom work, I
yeah,
mean work for the Almighty Creator, for God
yeah,
Almighty, for good, you will be attacked. But if your heart's right, if you're in sync, you will also be protected. And that is a fascinating journey to navigate. We've been through it with Vets for Child Rescue. Man, we've been attacked, but we have also been protected. And we've seen in every case our attackers fall on their own bitter swords, the futile attempts to try to stop us from safeguarding children, to stop us from alerting the populace to what's really going on, to censor and suppress the truth. It's been weird, the vitriol and the bitterness from the dark side, but it's also just as encouraging to see how the light shines no matter what. And we just keep going and building our organization. And it's just something I want to encourage you about, because we've been down this road a bit, and it is, man, life is no longer boring.
no,
When you're in the fight, when you decide to give good to humanity in the name of the Father, it is a whole different level of operation. So I just want to encourage you and say, man, whatever you do, Stay close, stay tuned in, stay prayed up, stay read up, and keep going. You will be blessed through it tremendously.
Yeah, and there's lots of opposition along the way, but that's one thing that we really just decided with this in particular is that this isn't for us. This is for the children, you know. This is for those that don't have a choice but to have hope, and that's the only option they have is either die or, you know, just continue believing that somehow, some way, God's going to create that rescue. And for us, it's not an option of giving up at this point. It's a mandate. And yeah, and so, you know, along the way, you start to realize, especially when you're working in Hollywood, when you're working in this industry, you start to realize where where people really are at with issues like this. And I think it's diametrically opposed to uh, an industry that can't benefit from this fight, you know, that
Yeah,
doesn't want to take
yeah.
part in, and really it has become, you know, in a lot of ways, sadly, a thing where it's a talking point or it's a buzzword or it's anything besides what it actually is, which is the lives of children, which is so sad. You know, we found it along the way as well. A lot of people have responded really well to that short video that you guys as well, but yet many of them, you know, can't handle it, can't handle dealing with that subject, and can't aren't willing to come on board and tell a story like this, and would be
It takes
more
a
willing
lot
to
of
just go
moral
tell a film that
courage.
doesn't mean anything, you know?
Yeah, it's moral courage that is needed. And you
Yeah,
can
it's
see
moral
those who do
courage
not
that's
have
needed.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, you know, one of my good friends who he helped develop this story with us, he sent it to a good friend who's just a recent, you know, Golden Globe winner, Emmy winner, and he read it and he was blown away by it. He said this film needs to be made, and really just said, you know, if it takes moving heaven and earth to do it, you guys got to make this story, and it's really a worthwhile project. And so he helped us bring it to you know, one of the most, you know, probably the number one agency in Hollywood, and we'll leave that unnamed as well. And they didn't, you know, they didn't want anything to do with a story like this.
Yeah. Well, look, there are good and bad people in every industry, as
Correct.
you
Yeah.
know. It's been about a decade in film television industry doing mostly reality shows,
Right.
competition firearms shows and things like that. But we also did Rhino Wars and some other stuff. And I just saw that whenever I tried them to make something more morally uplifting, a little bit more intelligent style programming. They always wanted to dumb it down. There was a lack of care for the audience. There, it was
Yeah.
just greed. And there are a lot of gatekeepers in that industry, and they
Yeah.
prey upon the children and they prey upon the young, attractive actors and actresses. To get the role, you have to kiss up and pay a lot of times sexual dues.
Yeah.
And the casting couch dynamic is an absolute real one. I've got
Yeah.
numerous friends who have been subjected to it at parties and so many other things. And it's just, it's ugly. And whenever I started trying to rally support to film Contraland, our documentary, so
Yeah.
many people, they wouldn't say no, Ben. What they would do is just shine me on. Oh, yeah, that's God's work. Absolutely. 3 bags full. Yeah, man. And then just slow roll me, gaslight me. They didn't want anything to do with it. They weren't going to help. And that's when I finally realized I was going to have to crowdfund the thing. And then the crowdfunding platforms started undermining and blocking us and
Yeah.
deleting our accounts and just
Yeah.
completely illegal behavior. And we had to finally found Vets for Child Rescue, a nonprofit org, just to rally the money to make the documentary, which is all I set out to do. I never
Yeah.
wanted a nonprofit organization. So it grew from all that, but I guess God had a plan because now we're running operations and we've got a continuing message and platform. And so it's just keep the faith. You will encounter a lot of resistance, but you got the creator of the universe on your side, man. You're protecting his little ones and exposing a harm, and it needs to come out, and it will. It will.
Yeah, and you know that's why I really honor what you guys do because you know you obviously with your background you know have a lot of different ways you can use your platform, you can use your voice, and to choose to use it on a topic like this that really does you know make certain you know opportunities you know kind of disappear for you is really a testament of trust in God, right? Because He's going to end up
Yeah.
providing the right opportunities and the right doors and the right people to rally around that care about this. And
Yeah. I think
And
it's a matter of just deciding what matters most, what your priorities are. And for me, I got to where I didn't feel okay doing anything less. I'm like, I have to address the most important harm that I see. The most important change I see needs to be made. Otherwise, I wouldn't feel okay about myself. And we all have our individual journeys to walk. It just comes to a point to where you're walking away from money and opportunity to do what's right, but after a point in your soul, you decide, each of us at some point, I got to do what's right, and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
nothing else matters.
Yeah, I mean, and that's actually, what this Golden Globe, actor was telling us. He's like, you could get this story told, you could hand it over, and he is very, very much into the inside group of Hollywood. And he's like, this story could be told by, the guy that directed Dune. Like, this is that, great of a script. And we just knew it's not something we could hand off. This was a mandate for us to tell, even if that, closed certain opportunities with working with certain people. There's just, when you're called to do something, and if it's you that's called to do it. I mean, yeah, I love what you guys are doing, and it reminds me of, one of my favorite films is the Black Hawk Down. And there's a quote in there where he says, "Nobody asks to be a hero. It just sometimes turns out that way." And I really feel that when it comes to this, there's a lot of people that I talk to about child trafficking, about what's going on, and they're like, "Man, that's terrible," but I just don't really feel called to really help with that, or I don't really feel like I have God's plan is for me to focus or think about that, or I don't want to think about that. Like I don't think I can think about that, and really it's just quite a wrong perspective to have when you think about, man, these kids don't feel called to being trafficked either. They don't. Nobody
Exactly.
feels called, but the circumstance creates heroes that arise and that take that
Yeah.
choice, and you know, to do something, because we're all given a choice to either just look away or to do something. And this story really has to do with what does it look like when it's right next door, when it's your child.
Yep. Agreed. Ben,
Yeah.
bear with us, brother. We'll be right back, folks. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Defending Our Children, everyone. We are on with filmmaker Ben Pauling. Forrest, I believe you had something you wanted to jump in with.
Well, what's interesting is when I watched the teaser on this, I was amazed on how captivating it is. And there's 2 points. Point number one is how Hollywood is just regurgitating their content. They're not bringing any new content. And number two, when we talk to people that, as Ben said earlier, they don't want to talk about it, and yet I'd like you to sit in a room, which I have done with family members who their kids have disappeared. I've recently went to an event. A woman and her teenage daughter, they had lost their child and had been missing for 4 months. It's very difficult to look in the eyes of a family like that have lost their kid, and yet when somebody tells me they don't want to talk about this, I tell them, well, if you don't talk about it, eventually it could happen to you. Because what Ben is
Yeah.
illustrating in this movie is it can happen to anybody.
Happened to our
Yeah.
daughter. I mean, she
Yeah.
walked out of a Subway sandwich shop at night, and the guy put his arm around her and put a knife right up under her side.
Mm.
I mean, it right there campus in Tucson, Arizona. So I mean, it can happen anywhere to anyone.
Wow.
It seems
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
our society wants to
Yeah.
feel
And
like if they don't
that's
talk about it, it can't happen, and that it doesn't work that way. Reality doesn't work that way. Ignoring it doesn't make it go away.
yeah.
So when you look at the Ben, when you look at
No, that's
Hollywood,
something I've learned too on the journey of developing. So yeah, so I mean, something I learned in the process of writing the story and just talking with people was how many stories there are like that of family members and especially female that I've had in close encounters or situations like this where someone's following them, someone's attempting to kidnap them, and the close calls that go along with that. It's quite alarming when you bring up that subject. How many people you would know, even in your own sphere, that have a story like that. And when you talk to your local, we talk to our local sheriff department in where we live, and they were getting one call at the time. They're getting one call a week just at a particular driving range that was an indoor bar slash driving range, and they were getting a call a week having to do with trafficking there. And it's a lot more prevalent than people realize, and it's not talked about, it's not given that platform, it's really become, a sore subject for people, to the point where, they just want to ignore it, and they think if they ignore it, then it'll just disappear. But it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that with evil. The longer it gets to be hidden, the longer it gets, stowed away, the more evil it's going to take place. And as we know, when you're working for the kingdom, it's light that the darkness hates. It's
Yep.
bringing it to light. It's talking about it. That's how you fight. That's how you fight these battles. Is you talk about them. You bring them to light. You force people to face the enemy that wants to go unseen.
Yeah. It's the information that benefits the people the most that gets the most censored. Sadly,
Exactly.
I can track it on everything that I've posted on any platform. That which is the most powerful, the most needed information that would cause the most positive change and safeguard the most people, those are the interviews and the pieces that are the most censored. Almost nobody sees them. It's
Yeah.
very, very ugly what's happening in our country.
Yeah. And so our goal is to tell a story that really speaks to these types of people, the people that you and me are like, everyday people that live in this country, where we think we're sheltered, where we think everything's fine, and let them know this is going on right here under our nose. This is not just in some, you know, foreign country where there's no laws. This is taking place, and the industry is very much alive right here. And it's something that people both need to be aware of, that they need to face. And the only way I could see bringing this kind of topic up that I felt was doable for us was to tell a story that first entertains people, that brings people in and makes them feel related,
Yeah.
relatable, and make it feel very personal, and really make it to where you care about characters that you identify with. And what would it be like for you? What would it be like if this happened to your daughter, to your child? And that there's actually a line that's in the film that's, it's amazing what people turn their eyes from until it's one of their own.
Yeah.
And it really is the truth of the matter. Once it becomes, once you have a dog in a fight, there is no other choice but to get involved, and to get your hands dirty.
Yeah, I feel like you captured all that very well just in the segment that I saw, Ben. It was
Yeah.
really, really compelling.
Yeah, I appreciate. Well, that's also, I give credit to my brother, who's the co-director on this. He's the guy that knows how to capture the visuals that are up here, and
Yeah.
figure out the ways to bring those to the screen with the right lenses and the right you know shots. And that's really kind of, the whole operation is it's a family operation. My dad, he's been working in reality TV, and then producing music. And my mom's been a makeup artist. And kind of, we have a whole community of collective of filmmakers around us that were willing to help us to create a short video like you saw. It's really been a blessing to be able to do that. But it's really also just, it's not a choice for us. For when I had that dream, it became really that the burden of my heart to be able to do this. And it's not a war we can afford to lose, or cower away from, when there's these children's lives at stake. And I don't have the combat skills that you have. I don't have the background or the resources to go and make a huge dent in any other way besides what I've been gifted, is to tell story, and to try to connect with people's hearts in a way that hopefully it makes an impact, that lasts with them for a lifetime.
Well, sometimes that's the most powerful way we can change a culture. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's why we've reached to media to do that. And I think you're right on the bullseye. Ben, we've got about a minute and a half left. Let everybody know what the plan is for this film. What's the future look like? Getting it together, getting it out there. Where would they be able to find it? And how can they find and support you and what you do?
Yeah, so right now we are funding this film up ourselves, and we really know that this story is not going to see the light of day unless people like your listeners, like like me and you rise up and come together and tell it. Because if we just leave, we leave it to the hands of Hollywood, they're not going to tell our story. They're not going to tell these stories. We have to get involved, and we've come to a point where we realize, well, it's up to us. It's up to us to fund it. It's up to us to tell it and to distribute it. And so right now we're crowdfunding. We are raising funds to be able to tell this story, and people could find ways to give and to participate and to help us build this dream at dreamfilm.us. And there'll be a lot more info on the project and ways that they could get involved. Yeah, on dreamfilm.us.
All right, we'll share that everywhere we publish this. Ben, we thank you for your efforts out there. We wish you Godspeed. Thank you for coming on the show. And for those of you that have the time, we do encourage you to catch the second half of our show with Ben, where we will continue the discussion, opening eyes and ears to the truth, man. It is so needed. And for the rest of you, that's it for today on Defending Our Children. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Defending Our Children, everyone. We are back on with our second half of our show with filmmaker Ben Pauling. And his film is called Dream, and it is about child trafficking, how it happened in a place and time when wasn't expected, which is generally the case. Who would give up a child willingly to harm's way? So we're continuing the discussion. We encourage you, for those that haven't gotten to hear it, go back and hear the first half of this show as well. Ben, thank you for your work. Thank you for the film that you're putting together. Tell us a little bit more about it, and let's continue the discussion.
Yeah, so Dream is a film that is centered around the community where I grew up in, where I live in Auburn, California, which is where they first found gold, actually, in California. And the story centers around a young man who, 3 years after his little sister goes missing at a local bike race at the fairgrounds, he has a dream. And in the dream, he is standing at the gate of this industrial warehouse, and a guy pulls up in a truck, very mysterious guy, and he is compelled that there's trafficking taking place in this warehouse. And so he wakes up from this dream shook by it, and he decides to drive around looking, feeling he might find this place from the dream. It might have something to do with his sister. And lo and behold, he actually ends up finding this place from his dream, and the whole encounter from his dream takes place. And he immediately goes to the police, and he tries to explain his story, and he leaves out the fact that there's a dream that took place. He doesn't want to seem crazy, and he had kind of similar false alarms with them in the past, so he didn't want to do anything to discredit himself in that way. And he's pretty much left with the fact that they can't do anything without a warrant in that short amount of time. They have to first kind of, and so he compelled by this dream, and then he has another dream. He's compelled to get his blue collar, working class friends to go in, sneak into this place at night and uncover to see what's going on in there. And it ends up being a powerful story of rescue of children. I won't give away too much else, but it's a mystery thriller. It's an action drama. It's a small town film that, a lot of the films I grew up loving was, The Outsiders and Stand By Me. And as I got a little older, Braveheart and Shawshank Redemption. It has all of those kind of iconic, timeless qualities that you'd want to see in a film, but on a subject matter that really, really is important, and that needs to be spoken about in a way to where people are willing to go and see a movie about that. Because at the face of it, most people aren't going to go want to see a movie about child trafficking. But if you make a film that's about a powerful story, and it's about people, and it's about the reality of the situation, which is this is not an issue that's political. It's not an issue that is talking point. This is people. This is lives,
Yeah.
and this is affecting those just like you, just like me and you. And it's not so foreign as we think it is.
Well, I can
And
testify to the part of the film that I saw was very compelling, and it was high quality. It was outstanding filmmaking. The story was compelling. The characters were compelling. I can't wait to watch the whole thing.
I think
look
for
forward
me,
to it.
yeah, I think for me, being a dad, I mean, Craig and I are dads, and our kids are grown up, but we've been at the water park, and we've keeping our eyes on our kids, but there's that moment when they disappear and you lose them for a second because you looked away and you're tracking and you find them. So when the moment the two brothers realize the sister was gone, I mean, I felt it. I felt that sinking feeling. I've had a smaller version of that, but I was just amazed on how that scene drew me in. And it was almost like the first thing I did was like, is that it? I mean, we were almost to the end of the teaser. I'm like, is that it? Okay, that's not funny. I want to see the rest of this. So it was very compelling for me.
Yeah.
Now, one issue
Yeah.
I take with the film is this happened at a motorcycle race, and I wanted to yell, no, not at a motorcycle race, because motorcycle racing people are such
Yeah.
good people. But as
Yeah.
we all know, hey, this can happen anywhere, and it does happen anywhere and everywhere. But I did appreciate the motorcycle racing aspect of it, because I've always just thought that was cool.
Yeah, well, that in particular is a touchstone landmark place in our community. During the summer, every Friday night they have the Fast Fridays motorcycle races, and so it's an event that the community kind of all rallies around and is proud of. And in our story, it really felt compelling that a place of such that would bring such joy, that would bring such memories, would become for him really a place of such trauma, and would really kind of change his perspective on kind of on the whole town. Because when something like this does take place, it really does affect more than just a family. It really it has an imprint on the community around, and it really does affect more than just the family. It affects an entire community when something like this, because it's not just one person's kid. When this takes place and you're aware of it, this is all of our children. So yeah, that's why kind of we had that included in there. I love motorcycle races as well, and it's very cinematic.
Yeah,
I think it's also
nice.
important to point out, and you talk about this at the end, we've talked about these numbers as well. Back in 2020, when we released Contraland, it was 38 to $50 billion in the United States alone, which is greater than all pro sports combined. Today, if I walk around my town, I'm an Astros fan. I live in Houston, and there's Astros t-shirts, there's Astros emblems, stickers on the cars. You go to the grocery store, Astros, Astros, Astros. And to think that this
Big money.
business is bigger than that, but yet most people, they don't see it. And
Right.
I've learned after doing this with Craig, I've learned now I'm learning every day what to look for, what to see if something doesn't look right. And I think that's with what you're doing and what Craig is doing and what I'm doing is we're trying to alert the populace. And the best way to do it is by your craft. This is great craft work that
Exactly.
Agreed.
Yeah. It's a mandate. It's a call. It's a call we feel very strongly in our hearts from God to tell this kind of story. And along the way, we did have, certain producers. Man, it'd just be a lot more easy to make this and get this across if it was, drug trafficking.
Oh yeah.
Just
Yeah.
change the plot to smuggling or something like that, or some sort of other thing. And it's not something that would ever be an option for us to change it in that way. But yet at the same time, the reality is those kind of stories are easier to get told, and they're less sensitive, kind of sore spot for people. There's another film coming.
Have you concluded, or have you come to some sort of theory as to why you're running into so much resistance? I mean, Craig and I have our versions. I'd like to hear what you have to say about that. Why would a producer not want to produce a great story that you're telling?
I think at the end of the day, it's a fight versus the unseen realm of what we don't understand, and it's not always a conscious decision, but there is tides that churn in certain directions, especially when it comes to topics of evil like this. And there's a spiritual component to why a lot of people make a lot of different decisions, and it's not always clear to even them, why they choose not to do something like this. It's a lot more to do than just do I want to make this film or not? It's a monetary.
I believe you're spot on. Many of them may not be witting to exactly why, but they just feel compelled not to get involved in it. It's not expedient. It's not in vogue in that industry to expose that. You got Harvey Weinstein and the other predators getting exposed, and it's ugly. They want to sweep it under the rug, but Folks, stay tuned. We got to cut to a quick break, but we'll be right back with more from Ben Pauling. Welcome back, everyone, to Defending Our Children. We're on with filmmaker Ben Pauling. Ben, what all is involved in putting this film together? What's your plan? What does this all look like?
Yeah, so right now we have most of the production actually queued up and ready, and as far as locations and hotels, and we have a lot of the community that's rallied around to help us, and support in ways that money not needed. For instance, in the hotels, we have those comped by a Hard Rock Hotel over in Fire Mountain, and we have some things, some elements of the film that people are willing to donate their services to. And there's certain elements that obviously we cannot do provide for without funding, without money. And so all the locations are locked. Everything's ready to tell this film except for the funds that it's going to take to hire the cast, to hire the crew, to pay for the film, to pay for the cameras and release it and to edit it. Just those kind of things that you can't do without funding. And so right now we're putting together our campaign, and we're going to the people. We're going directly to those that care about this subject in the masses, and we're putting it in their hands to help us to tell the story, not putting it in the hands of a certain production company or a certain producer who thinks, oh yeah, we'll put money into this film because it'll make X amount of dollars, but really into the people that care about this issue and that want to see stories like this told, because at the end of the day, you've said it earlier that a lot of the films in theaters right now, people don't want to see, and they're not going to go see, and they're losing money, and they're not leaving inspired when they watch these films. And I feel the same way a lot of the time when I go out and see movies in the theaters. It's once in a blue moon you'll see a story that really touches you and that compels you and that leaves a mark with you. I think it's about time that we no longer leave it in the hands of those that don't have our interests to tell the stories and to influence culture. And so yeah, right now we have a platform where we're going to have people be giving, and we're going to have people kind of rally around, and we're going to have some events in the upcoming months to make a raise of about $1.5 million to tell this story, to bring this issue and this heart cry to the screen.
Well, we'll be happy to help pour some fuel on that fire for your funding and get the word out. When we were trying to rally funding for Contraland and even a doc series to keep pounding on that gate and showing people what's going on, we've had people with significant means say, well, I'm not funding a film.
Right.
And to me, that just caused me to realize that no matter how successful they'd been at other things in their life, they had no comprehension of how our culture gets changed, how we got here to this level of depravity, the conditioning, the psychological manipulation, and how so many negative cultural stories are told and funded to a giant degree in Hollywood. Yet if you want to bring something that's morally uplifting, that shows the right way that we should be and what we should do, no matter how well the quality, there doesn't seem to be the funding for that. So I celebrate your film. I celebrate the quality that I see that the talent that you've got and the quality you're pouring into it. So it's going to be fantastic, and we'll back you guys every way that we can.
Yeah, and we run into a lot of the same things with people that have a significant amount of means, but they don't understand, and they donate. And I believe that it's 100% necessary to be donating towards organizations. I do find it's an area that people haven't really utilized with film when it comes to this issue as much, and or maybe haven't just been willing to really push in that fight. A lot of people voices are silenced when it comes to this, and so people don't think that it's going to reach or it's going to have an impact. But as I was just hearing earlier this week from, there's another film coming out next month called Sound of Freedom, and it's going to be coming out in theaters July 4th. And that film has been muted and it's been pigeonholed and stopped for many years since it's been created, and now it's finally getting released in theaters with backing, and it's going to be shown to the masses. And the man that story is based on, Tim Ballard, he was sharing how it really is the storytellers that turn the tides of culture and are able to have that impact. And he was referencing the famous book Uncle Tom's Cabin, and how that really impacted the slave, fight for freedom back in those times, and how really, when you look at music, when you look at stories, these are the most powerful means to influence a younger generation and to influence people. And I think of, you were in the military. Remember when Top Gun came out, and that you know, skyrocketed the enlistment, the percentages of people joining the Navy, joining the military, wanting to get involved in that way.
It
And
sure did.
it's just it's something that a lot of people with a lot of means don't realize. And even people with less means, you're talking about, there's millions and millions of people that care about this subject, and it wouldn't take, very much if we all rallied together to fund up all of these different operations and these different endeavors for good, fighting
Yeah.
against evil.
Yeah, it was several movies. Well, it was King David in the Bible that inspired me as far as what a warrior, a righteous warrior could be.
Yeah.
But several other of the films. One was a British SAS film about a counter-terrorist team, and another one was Stallone in First Blood. I just thought,
Yeah.
man, that guy is so highly capable. How much good could a guy like that do against evil in
Right.
defense of his country? So that really inspired me. I wanted to have that level of capability to fight against evil, and only because, not because I was a violent boy, but because I loved people so much. I wanted to defend what we have. And
Right.
you're absolutely right, man. Those stories impact us, and society has been conditioned. And look at where we are now. We need positive stories to help
Yeah.
show us the way that we should go, to bring us out of it, to bring the sunlight back out. And,
Yeah.
it's just needed.
I think
Amen.
Hollywood plays a role in conditioning people as well. And we've talked to people that work in the intelligence community, and they talk about how unknowingly that Hollywood is playing a role. And so what they do is they normalize certain behaviors and
Right.
things like that. My belief is, after learning and digesting and absorbing as much information as I can, I believe that the trafficking of kids is a currency that is making the world go around. And there are four positions as a policymaker or as an influencer that these people take. And that's either they're ignoring it, they're benefiting from it, they're participating, or they're being leveraged by it. And that answers just about any question that if you've ever questioned somebody's motive and it's the opposite of whatever you think it should be, you apply that filter to it, that answers the question. And so, if you look at, we published an article last year, and it was we had 13 different hashtags that were being suppressed by Twitter, and it had some things like hashtag child traffic awareness, or hashtag child sex trafficking, or protect our children, or protect the children, or save the children. These are things that Instagram would not allow us to post. I mean, why? Absolutely, it makes absolutely no sense. We run into this on a daily basis with our social media team. I'm sure you've witnessed it, and you scratch your head and you're like, why?
Yeah.
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 There can be no justification, no excuse for censoring efforts to safeguard children. That's just the bottom line. There's a very dark, very hostile, very ugly, and very sick culture pushing for the normalization of the harm, the rape of small children. And like my wife says, if you've got to take a diaper off of a baby to rape him, something is severely, severely wrong in your world. And that's happening on industrial scale in the United States. So, what? Here's to everybody that's standing up and facing the situation and doing what they can to safeguard the little ones. Folks, stay tuned. We'll be right back with one last segment with Ben Pauling. Welcome back to Defending Our Children, everyone. We are on with our last segment chat with Ben Pauling, a filmmaker. His film is called Dream. I've seen the trailer of it, or the short film version of it. It is outstanding in quality and compulsion. I cannot wait to see the whole thing. Ben, when people want to follow and stay tuned and make sure they don't miss this, let them know where they can go and track updates.
Yeah. So dreamfilm.us is where we have our site, where you'll find the trailer that Craig and Forrest here saw as well. And they'll be able to donate and give and take part in joining this fight with us to tell this story. And this story that has to do with rescuing and telling the truth about what's going on to our children right here under our nose, under our thumb in this country, in America. And I know that it's for a reason. And you just talked about a second ago about how there's something wrong with someone that has to take a diaper off of a baby before they rape it. And there's a reason why they're attacking our children. There's a reason why this is taking place. There's a reason why you said earlier that this is what's making the world go round, and why people, they actually, the people that are doing these certain things, for religious reasons, they actually understand that it's the
Yes.
life of a child, that has power, and it's God's children. And when you look at children, you know exactly the power that they have, and how close they are to that innocence, and how important that innocence is to life in general, and how that's robbed, and how that's something that cannot be ignored. And there's a film coming out, I just said earlier, in a couple of weeks, called Sign of Freedom, and I pray and I know that it's going to be successful, and I feel the tides are churning when it comes to this subject, and that people are going to rally around. And I really do feel that God's going to bring justice to this issue. Even within this year, I believe there's going to be a lot of things that take place, but I don't believe that the fight to bring this to the forefront is going to be any easier after that takes place. I mean, you look at the film that Mel Gibson did in 2004 called, Passion of the Christ, one of the highest grossing movies of all time. And they've been struggling and trying to make the sequel to that for the last 4 years. And it hasn't been any easier, even with given all the success that took place, because, darkness doesn't take a day off, and it doesn't, if you slide through once and you get a victory, it's not meaning at all that the next battle is going to be any easier. And so we know that it's going to take people rallying around, people going to the site, people choosing to partner with us, and partner with organizations that, like your own, like others that we're going to be working with, to rally together and to become strong, and to not be apathetic, not to be numb to this issue, but to realize that we actually can do something, that we aren't helpless, we aren't incapable of making a difference, no matter how great the injustice is, and that we really have no choice but to fight. We can't cower away from this when these children's lives are at stake.
Yeah, love has to win, and those who love
Love has to win.
enough step up and defend the defenseless. Those who love enough protect the innocent, and that's what we need to get back to. It takes moral courage to do that. If your morality internally is as it should be, you shouldn't be able to sit by idly and watch someone being horribly harmed. And if you know it's happening, there is a responsibility. But it's also an opportunity. In a time when there's so much chaos and destruction, the opportunity has never been greater to give good to mankind. And that's a blessing. Even if people do it selfishly, I would say still do it. If you're going to help people selfishly because it's going to feel good, well, then do it for that reason, because it's still good. I've had friends that have reached out to me, and acquaintances in some cases, very depressed and beat down. And I'm like, you know what? And they're telling me my problems, my world, my darkness. And I'm like, okay, get up and get out and start help. Find someone who has it worse and help them. Just go through the motions, and you'll be amazed at how the sunlight comes out in your world. There's something about helping and giving back that we are wired. We're divinely and sacredly designed to give and to love. That's what we're to do. And when you do it, even in the smallest way, it feels right. It resonates with you, because it's what's supposed to be. It's the way that we are designed to work. So
exactly.
And folks, I just see the opportunity in this. Don't get down or discouraged about crisis. See it as opportunity, and wow, how much good can I do? Because there is the need that is so great.
And the greater the battle, the greater the victory, I believe. And this for such a time as this, I feel we're all called to live in these times for a reason. We were created, in a very famous, well-known book called the Bible. It says we were created for good works, and it's when you do what you were born to do. We're born to serve each other. We were born to love. We were born to lay down our lives and to sacrifice and to go the extra mile. And when we do that, we feel that purpose. We feel alignment with life, and everything starts to fall into place and make sense when we decide to look outside of ourselves and to serve. And we serve, a God of the impossible. In a situation like this, you look at it from man's point of view, and it looks impossible. It looks like a mountain you can't climb. It looks unconquerable. But I believe with a story like this, and when it comes to your own children, you have no choice but to believe that you're going to find that child, that you're going to make a difference. And our goal is to let people know there is hope. You can do something. You can be a hero. And to, like you said earlier, you're inspired by David. David rose up when no one else would. He showed them that what they were capable of. And I believe that with a story like this, we can show people that no matter who you are, where you're from, or what your story is, you can be a hero. You could rise up and make it. It doesn't have to always be some big number, or some big, famous exploit. It could be just in the smallest thing of just serving those and the opportunities that are right in front of you.
Yeah, yeah. Fighting doesn't always look like putting on armor and wading into a physical kinetic battle.
No.
It often looks just like telling the truth, standing up and speaking the truth in a time of universal deceit. One of the most beautiful ways you can fight is to share the truth, shine the light. We say,
Well, yeah, Craig. We've seen a lot of this with mama bears standing up in front of their school boards. You see these 100-pound moms stand up, looking up at the mic. They're so small, but they look like mighty warriors because they will not shut up. They will not sit down. And we've met a lot of these folks that are doing this, Ben. And so it's a great example of everybody has a role in society, as Craig says, to lock arms and protect our kids.
Well, that strong moral conviction of a concerned mom at a school board meeting is very, very inspiring. I mean, it's contagious. It's what we are supposed to do. And that's why the dark side overreacts and freaks out and attacks these school moms and puts them under investigation at all costs to try to stop this swelling, this groundswell of truth and moral conviction and courage in the face of adversity, and all this grooming, this dark, vile attack on our little ones, that you mentioned is for some, it's a spiritual drive that causes them to make war on the children. And that's another thing that nobody will say out there. It's inconvenient. But well, Ben, we're wrapping down to about a minute left. Let's drive some more support back to you. So again, let's wrap this up and let people know how to find you and support what you do.
Yeah, well, first, I just want to. Lastly, I just want to thank your listeners, your audience, and people that would even choose to listen to a podcast, to a radio show like this. Kind of have already shown that they're not asleep, and it's not exactly easy listening when it comes to the subjects and the topics and the conversations that you're having on this show. And so I honor those people, and I do believe that there are a remnant, there are good people, and there are enough people to wage this war and to win. All it took was 300 with the war of Gideon, and all it took was David slinging that slingshot. It doesn't always take the most numbers to be able to make the victory take place. And so I plead on the hearts of those listening and those that would be compelled to join us on this journey, to tell this story, to take part in a film that can last long after we're gone, and touch hearts for years and generations to come, and to be a touch point in history, really. And so, the website is dreamfilm.us. And on there, there'll be updates, there'll be events that'll be taking place in the next months. We plan to tell this story, to shoot this film in the next 3 to 4 months. And so our raise that we're going to be having is going to be within the next 1 to 2 months, 1 to 2.5 months. And so in that time period, we're seeking to raise $1.5 million. But with any amount that we raise within, if we end up only raising $500,000, we're going to figure out a way to bring this story to the screen, bring this story to life, and multiply the 5 loaves that are given in the best way possible. And so, I just thank you. I bless you guys, and I thank you, Craig and Forrest, for your guys' time.
All right, thank you, Ben. Godspeed to you. That's it for today, folks, on Defending Our Children.